somewhere along the way in our beautiful journey. And speaking about our beautiful journey, here we are. We're journeying again. Hello, Michael Knight down there in Pasadena, California.
And
What
good
is
morning and
Mikey?
hello.
How are you?
I'm good, and I say good morning to you, Vinnie, up in Seattle, Washington. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this time, or close to this time,
About
we invade your Pertutor, and your Pertutor will remain invaded as long as you watch us. So that'll be that's fair warning, I think.
Yeah, I think that gives people enough time to up and run.
Is that downtown Seattle behind you? Or is that New York? I can't quite make it out.
That's Times Square.
Okay.
That's
They closed the subway. Didn't they close the subways there last night because they had a water main break?
There was a water main break. I didn't see exactly where it was or what it was doing, but yes, they closed the subways for a time.
And they give you the old New York advice. Why don't you walk home? See you later.
Yeah. Subway's not running. Go take a bus. Walk. It's good for you.
It's good for you. Yeah. They always mention that. It's sort of like a slap in the face. Besides, it's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you. You look like you could use a good walk. Well, thank you,
Mr. New York official,
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Who's the mayor of New York now? Eric
Idle from Monty Python.
Well, he'd probably do it better. I don't know. That's the one job in the country. Half the people are going to like you if you're the president. Half the people aren't going to like you if you're the president. If you're the Pope, half the Catholics are going to like you. Half the Catholics aren't going to like you. Right? It's a given. If you're the mayor in New York, nobody likes you. You could.
What happened to the idea of the idol of New York, the leader of New York? I'm not going to mention any names. Fiorello LaGuardia. Was he only 50-50?
Well, no, those were different times. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of people that didn't like him either. There was a lot of people that thought he was just a wop.
Oh dear.
The Irish guys and the Blue Bloods didn't particularly like the fact that a wop was running the city.
Because it messes up their parades where they put on the sashes, and the long coats and go walking up Fifth Avenue.
Right. They were still reeling over the loss of Jimmy Walker, and not the guy who played on Good Times.
And can you find Teapot Dome on the map? That's what I want to know.
I take you to the Teapot Dome gas station. It's still in existence here in Washington.
What do they pump? SO? Some off.
Well, they moved it for a while. It was some kind of independent gas. It was actually a working gas station. When I left to go to Pittsburgh, it was still a working gas station.
Wow.
When I came back, they had moved it from where it was and put it in this park. I mean, it took the pumps and everything. It's just not connected to anything anymore. But I don't know, 15 years ago, you could buy gas there. It was right in just south of Yakima.
Now, where is the place where all the politicians used to gather, where Boss Tweed held his?
Tammany Hall.
Tammany Hall. Thank you very much. And where's that?
I was in Manhattan.
Lower Manhattan, no doubt.
Lower Manhattan, yeah. Boss Tweed.
There was a Boss Tweed bar and restaurant on West 70th, right up the street from the big. And it was
very popular guy among the glitterati.
Yep, they remember Boss Tweed fondly, despite all the wonderful things he may or may not have done to you or for you.
Well, if he was one of those guys that every neighborhood had one of those guys that was connected, downtown or wherever. And, when, Boss Tweed was the guy for many years. Then there was a guy when my father knew this guy. I only knew of him, but my father actually knew him. It was a guy named Vito Marcantonio.
Oh, I love the name. Musical.
Yeah. And Vito Marcantonio was, I forget if he was the city councilman or state senator from Harlem. This is when East Harlem was Italian.
Wow. What year are we
And
talking about? The 50s?
yeah, so yeah, the 40s and 50s. And Vito ran the city. If you wanted something done, you went and saw Vito Marcantonio and he got it done for you.
Where did he get all his juice?
He had the Polaroids, I guess. Well, maybe that was before Polaroid was invented. But he, I mean, guys put themselves in position in New York. You make friends, boom, boom, boom. And in those days, if you got the backing of the right people, you could do things for people. And
Power and influence.
Vito Marcantonio was one of those guys who could do things for people.
Get you a job with the sanitation department.
Exactly. You didn't have to take a test. You just go see Vito Marcantonio. He was a congressman, actually. 7 terms in the House of Representatives.
Whoa.
Vito Anthony Marcantonio. And he was
a man you need to know. He's a man you have to get to know.
Right. He was a supporter of Fiorello LaGuardia, although he was a socialist and an avid supporter of the working class. I didn't know he was a socialist, but he was a member of the American Labor Party, represented Italian Harlem and Spanish Harlem, which was, you had Black Harlem on one side of Fifth Avenue, and on the other side of Fifth Avenue, you had Italian Harlem and Spanish Harlem.
Where the roses grow.
Right.
Right there on the sidewalk, yeah.
And he was one of those guys that was hooked up, made it to Congress. He was elected in 1934, and he was a champion of the working person, in the sense that if you had a problem in the neighborhood, you go see him, and he straightened it out. In a day when politicians held that kind of power in New York.
It was mediation of a sort.
Yeah. I mean, if you worked on his campaign, and then your kid wanted to get a job with the sanitation department, or wanted to get a job, or was 2 points shy on the police test,
excuse me,
or something like that, you go see Vito Marcantonio.
Funny thing about mediation is you have to accept the result. But Vito, I didn't get all my chickens back. Did you get some chickens back? Is it settled? Well, yeah, but I wanted full restitution. Yeah, but we're making a deal here.
Vito Marcantonio was an interesting cat in that in those days, and we had a guy in our neighborhood that was like that too, Nick Ferraro.
Good name.
Well, you might recognize his name from Geraldine. That was his cousin.
Uh-huh. Oh, yes.
But Nick Ferraro was our state senator in the 13th Senatorial District. I think we were, the 13th Senatorial District in Queens. And when you needed something in the neighborhood, you didn't go to small claims court. You didn't go to do this, do that, the other thing. You went and saw Nick Ferraro on Steinway Street.
Here's the deal, Nick.
And you said, Nick, I got a problem with this. I got a problem with that. Nick would make a phone call. He was nice and connected. And all of a sudden, boom.
At the Democratic Convention in San Francisco, Jimmy Breslin was there. And I asked him what he thought about the Ferraro family getting into politics. And he launched into a long monologue where he talked about the time that Geraldine Ferraro's teenage son sideswiped a bunch of cars on the street, including his own. And it was time to fix it. He didn't have to go ask anybody. Mr. Ferraro went door to door, said, I know we got a problem. We're going to take care of it. Get your car fixed. Give me the bill. And he said, now that's an American. That's an American I can live with. That's an American I can support. That's an American I can trust.
But
My car got sideswiped, and the Ferraro family took care of it.
right in I don't want to say the old days, but in previous times, which is a fancier word for the old days, um, that's what would happen in things like that. You didn't call the cops. You want you saw, or really, especially in the Italian neighborhoods, because everybody knew everybody.
I know you did that.
So John Ferraro, who was little Ferraro's father and Geraldine's husband, he would rather go and peel off the cash and get the car fixed, take it to my friend's body shop over there on Northern Boulevard.
Yeah, be
He'll
sure to take
fix
it.
it up
Be sure
for
to
you.
take it to Bruno. Don't take it to anybody else. Make sure Bruno gets it.
Oddly enough, the body shop on Northern Boulevard, the guy that owned it, his name was Bruno. And his wife's name was Bruna.
No, you never know who was calling who. Did he say
No
Bruno?
crap. I'm tired where I worked for them for a long time. So, but that was the theme in New York. You didn't go to the cops. You didn't if some kid broke your window in your house, you went to the kid's father. How many times somebody went to my father and said, "Hey, Vinnie did this, Vinnie did that." You straighten it out, and then you catch a beating for it, and it's all done. Nobody calls the cops. The what do you call it? The blue bloods, the rich people call the cops
because they don't know what they're doing,
and that's why they don't get. That's why they have insurance companies. We don't need an insurance company in this neighborhood.
Plus, the term "stand-up guy" comes to mind. When how would you describe that situation? It was a stand-up guy. He took care of it.
Yeah, that's the way it was a lot of times. When I was coming up, you
Jimmy
hit
Breslin,
somebody's car, you paid for it. Don't put it through insurance. I pay for it.
I think Jimmy Breslin missed those days because he praised that action as heroic. This is how you do. This is how you live your life. This is how you be a neighbor. This is how you live in New York.
I agree with him. I agree with him 100%. It shocked me when I got to California, and things would happen, and people would right away they'd call a lawyer, or worse, they wouldn't come to you with the problem that they had. They would go to your
Third party.
supervisor at work, your boss. They call the cops. They do this. They get a lawyer. That didn't happen in New York.
And you
Very
don't get
rarely did you get a lawyer.
There's no way to get satisfaction, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're making a lawyer. You're paying a lawyer, but it all worked on the principle of if I got a problem with you, I come up to you and I tell you, and you either straighten the problem out, and then if you can't straighten the problem out,
then we got another problem.
Then we have another problem. When I got into my motorcycle accident, this was 1972. I got into my motorcycle accident. Now, the guy who hit me, who I hit actually, was wrong. He was making a left turn in front of me, didn't see me.
So he was at fault.
So when I'm in the hospital, and I mean, I'm like, I got both my arms in traction, my leg is in traction. I mean, I'm lying there like scrambled eggs. About 2 weeks when I'm in the hospital, my father walks in and he's got a piece of paper in his hand. The guy who I hit went to small claims court to get his car fixed because I didn't have insurance on the motorcycle. I was 16 years old. All I know is that my father showed this to me, and he said to me, "Don't you ever do something like this. You go talk." He's the guy. And all I know is that 2 months later, the guy didn't show up to court.
It's a kiss of death for your case.
He didn't. He never showed up for the case. Case got dismissed.
He thought better of it.
Well, I think somebody convinced him. I think probably somebody paid him a visit
Hello there.
and just said, "Are you kidding me? This kid's in the hospital. He's busted up. He might not be able to walk again, and you're sending him this. How about I take your eye out?"
Let's think this over. How else
Yeah.
can we do this?
I mean, again, I don't know that that's what happened, but I got a sneaky suspicion that that's exactly what my father did, because those are the kind of things that you say. The guy was from the neighborhood.
No, he knew better.
Now, if the guy would have gone to my father and said, "Hey, you know what? Vinnie hit the car and he wrecked the car, and can we work something out? Can you fix it? If I had a gas station."
That would have been a good idea.
My father probably would have fixed it for the guy. Said, "Yeah, I know Vinny's an asshole. He wasn't supposed to be on the bike, and he was on the bike, and da 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 da." And he would fix it. Plus, on top of it, I wound up suing the guy. And even though I was in the wrong because I didn't have a driver's license or insurance or anything like that, I still won the case.
Because whether you had those papers or not, he was still at fault.
He was still at fault. So he wouldn't have won the case anyway. But he wanted to be a wise ass. He thought he was going to settle the case by lawyering. And that's not how you do. That's not how in that day and time. Now, I know it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Now everybody runs to a lawyer. But I can't imagine that this is just New York. I mean, there was a time in this country when you had a problem with your neighbor, you went over and you talked to your neighbor.
No, you don't even know their name.
Gone, and that's part of the problem in this country.
That means there's too many of us. That leads us to the conclusion that we don't know each other because we've only lived there a short time, or we've lived there all our life, but we never go out, or we're just not friendly, just not neighborly.
Well,
and those are two different things, aren't they? You don't have to be a friend to somebody, but neighborly is another matter.
You know people. You don't have to be friends with them. We weren't tight friends with everybody on our block, but we knew everybody because in the summertime, people would sit out on the stoops.
And there they are.
The Mr. Softy truck would come, or the ice cream truck would come, or you'd walk up. I think we've talked about this before. One of the biggest social things in New York was going to get the paper at night. You'd go down and you get the news. Either you'd go down or your father would go down and go up to the candy store on the corner and wait 9 o'clock. The Daily News used to come.
9 p.m.
The Bulldog edition, first edition. And so while you were waiting for the newspaper to come, you talked to other people. There'd be 15, 20 people hanging out at the store. For a while, my dad had a candy store too. And every night, 8:30, 8 o'clock.
Here they come.
People would start gathering at the store. And maybe somebody would have an egg cream. Maybe somebody would have a soda or the ice cream. They stand outside and wait for the news truck to come. And they drop the paper off. They drop the bundle of papers off. You cut it open and everybody buys the paper. And they go back. But while they're out there, they're talking to each other. So you get to know people, not just on your block, but, for the surrounding blocks,
Around and about.
Yeah. And you don't have that anymore. People don't go up to people are afraid to go out at night.
Plus they have CNN on the hour or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have anything. We had the Daily News at 9 o'clock at night. Between 8:30 and 9, the paper would be up, they called it. Paper's up. Go up and give me a paper.
CNN's in the headlines today. They've hired their 5th executive since 2002 to run CNN. This guy has a background from the New York Times and the BBC. And he says he's going to roll up his sleeves and get to work remaking CNN. So look out. Here come all the new changes.
Is he going to stop them people from walking around all the time? It makes me dizzy.
Nope. Well, that I can't tell you. I think that was a Chris Licht idea.
Yeah, where did they go?
They don't go anywhere. They go this way. They go that way. They look like they're going to go someplace, but there's no place to
Yeah,
go. So they
they
take
go
a
to
few
a place
steps.
and then they start walking. It reminds me of that crap they had here. Actually, I liked it. I shouldn't call it crap. That what do they call it on Cairo? Out of the box. Remember out of the box?
What do they do out of the box?
They had the news anchors that stood up and held their copy. They read it. They didn't sit behind the desk. That lasted about a year.
And did they get out of the box finally?
I don't know. No, but, well, yeah, they got out of the box. But it was right after Happy Talk. They had to come up with new because Happy Talk, there was nothing happy to talk about anymore.
There's no happy talk.
There's no Happy Talk. You couldn't do Happy Talk today. I mean, how can you wax happy about car crashes and house fires?
With all the news there is to keep up with, CNN is still losing audience, and that means it has to either go to one of a couple places. It has to go to Fox or MSNBC. The more conservative listeners and viewers, or the ones that are being converted slowly, can go to Fox. The more liberal and more demanding for facts and fiction and to be separated will be at MSNBC. And as for the OAN and Newsmax, I think together, what do they make? 10%, probably less.
I think they're Russian, aren't they? Or one of them is Russian.
They're
Isn't it like
pro-Russian. There's difference. They're
run
pro-Russian.
by the Russians or pro-Russian?
They give a lot of time to Bhagwan Swami or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Vivek
The-
Krishna Swami, is it?
Yeah, he's a disturbed man. He's a disturbed individual.
You know what he
He-
seems like? He seems
can't-
like the asshole at the party.
He's and who won't give up the role. Why don't you just be quiet for a while? Have a drink. Go stand over there. No. I'm on a roll.
Right. He's the asshole at the party.
And he lies with such regularity and ability that he can't keep up with these lies, but he just will tell you another one to get in the way of it. That's a pathological problem, I think.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely an attention grabber.
Yep.
He's in it. The only I think the only clear reason this guy is in it is because well, two reasons. He's kissing Trump's ass. Trump doesn't have to show up. He can just send Vivek section there and take care of business.
Anytime he says these are the facts, you're going to get something like this. More people have died from talking about climate change than climate change itself. People talking about it and thinking about it and writing about it. That's what causes deaths right there. And these are the facts.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if there was somebody who was that age and that made sense. You know, I mean, it'd be great if there was somebody who was young like that, and was like a John Kennedy, or I don't know. Let's not even go that far Democratic. Let's go somewhere in the middle. But
where's the middle, by the way, these days?
Well,
I mean, we can find it, but when you find it, you're standing by yourself. There's nobody standing with you.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. But if you had everybody says they want the new generation of politicians, but where are they? Who are they? Who are the people who are going to take? Who are the people that are going to take this country over? You know who they are.
The demanding ones, the extremes on both sides. They'll get their little piece and they'll hold it. Jim Jordan.
I don't want Gates to take over the country, but I also probably don't want Octavio Ortiz, AOC.
But if you had your choice,
well, I'll take AOC.
That's what I thought you would say, and that's what I would say. But why would you lean that way, based on the fact that they're both on the extreme end? That makes you trust her more than you can trust him.
I would hope there would be an Adam Kinzinger somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, but those cats are out of jobs.
Right. Or, somebody of that ilk who's a moderate. But it doesn't seem like you can be a moderate these days. and get elected to anything.
Does anybody say what we need today is more moderation besides maybe Joe Biden? Although Joe Biden yesterday got in trouble for cutting the price system for medicines across the country for what he was called as socialist price fixing. But the medicine's cheaper. Yeah, but the socialists brought it about, so something's got to be wrong.
Yeah,
Don't take that medicine.
Tell that to me yesterday when I had to spend my last $44 on medicine.
It's no joke.
No, it's not a joke. So, Vito Marcantonio,
socialist price fixer.
Just to go back here for a second, Vito Marcantonio, who was a member of some radical party. I forget. I think I even said it before. I forget the damn party. The American Labor Party, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he has his first election. And I guess they have a special election, and the guy that's running against him, I guess, Joseph Scottorigio.
Slightly Italian. What are you going to do?
We're in Harlem. Who is Mark Antonio's opponent?
Yes.
Is found beaten to death.
They found him. That was a mistake.
They found him.
We got him.
I'm just saying.
You ain't going to see Mr. Antonio. Well, what's his name?
Scottorigio.
You ain't going to see Scottorigio around here no more.
Joseph Scottorigio. So, and it says here in the notes that New York City mobster Mike Coppola is believed to have been responsible. I knew Coppola's sons.
Really?
Yeah, his two sons lived in Astoria.
You'd have to live there if you want to eat at the Greek restaurants.
Yeah, well, this was when there was no Greek restaurants in Astoria. It was one. Thessalonica was the only Greek restaurant in Astoria at the time.
Wow.
This was Astoria was an Italian neighborhood until 1970, 71. And then the Greeks started coming over, and boom.
More restaurants. How can
restaurants everywhere.
Who would predict that in an Italian neighborhood full of Italian restaurants that the Greeks would come in and open more restaurants?
Everywhere you want to. I seriously, Italians came over with the clothes on their back. Greeks came over with pots and pans. It was amazing. And listen, I don't deny it. I worked hard. They opened them restaurants and they were there, 20 hours a day, keeping those greasy spoons open. They worked their asses off. I got nothing but respect for them.
The food you learn to love.
Well, many Greeks didn't do Greek restaurants. They did diners and greasy spoons and stuff like that. They all worked.
If I walked into a diner go ahead.
My uncle worked in a diner. He was a short order cook in a diner, and come to think of it, he was Greek.
He was a short order cook.
He was a Greek.
Do short order cooks take longer orders to go, or do they have a cook for that?
No, those go to the kitchen. The short order cook is the guy who stands at the griddle.
Yeah. That's
in front of the counter. And he talks to you while he's flipping his eggs. And if you come in at midnight, my Uncle Sam used to work from 9 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning.
What a shift.
As the short order cook. And if you came in at 9:15, 9:30, all you saw on the griddle, except for just one little spot, was home fries.
I'm just going to say, now look, when I walk in and see a griddle, there better be a stack of home fries in the corner that have been cooking all day, because that's what I want.
That's what they did. They made the home fries
Boy,
for
oh
the
boy,
morning breakfast.
do I
So
love
you
those.
could go in there from 9 to 3 in the morning, and there was nothing but home fries on the grill, and plus whatever he was cooking for whoever was in the diner. And that scene was repeated in every diner in New York.
Every griddle.
If you wanted to win a bet, all you had to do was say, "I bet you there's home fries on the grill when we walk into this diner." And you'd walk in, and if it was between 9 and 3 in the morning, there was home fries all over the place.
And you see what kind of day they're having, how many home fries are left. If it's just a corner, they had a good morning.
Well, no, they took them off the griddle and put them in. They had these like metal containers, that looked like they go into like a buffet thing or steam table, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And they would put them in there and then put them in the refrigerator. And then the morning shift would come in and they'd take them out
Warm them up.
and warm them up. And they had, I always remember that they had the home fries and then they had the butter that was melted. They had like another one of those metal containers that looked like a 5-pound brick of butter in it. And when you ordered eggs, they take that long spatula and dip it into grab a little hunk of butter, put it on the grill, crack the eggs right over the grill, and
Now
make breakfast.
Now you got a real egg.
Yeah, that's what. But every diner you went into in New York after 1969, 70, it was all
I lived on the west side, and there was the one on Amsterdam that I love the smell, and I love the tradition of the big griddle really working all day long.
Oh yeah, that thing. That thing. It was on from the day they opened till the day they closed. That thing was, they got their money's worth out of that piece of metal.
And if somebody ran against the boss in Harlem, his last meal would be in one of those diners before he was found.
His last meal probably would be at the delightful coffee shop on the corner of 116th and 2nd Avenue.
A good
That
breakfast.
was the place.
Good way to go out.
That was the place. That's where Coppola and DeMeo and those guys used to hang out. That was the spot in East Harlem, 116th and 2nd. 3rd, excuse me, 116th and 3rd. I'm sorry.
Cross town from Columbia.
Well, Columbia's on the west side. This is the east side, all the way over on the east side. But if you go through across 116th through the park, there's Columbia on the other side. But that was the matter of fact. That was probably I even wonder if the place might even still be there.
I hope so. Delightful.
The delightful coffee shop.
While you look up, I want to tip my San Francisco Giants hats to Alex Cobb, who lost his no-hitter in the 9th inning with 2 outs. Last night, the Cincinnati Reds decided that they wanted, in the worst way, to get a hit. They got a double in the 9th inning, and that broke up Alex Cobb's no-hitter, which would have been the first one since 2015 for the Giants. And Patrick Bailey, the catcher, hit a 2-run homer. There was an exciting catch in center field, but ultimately the gods of baseball said, it is a no-hitter, but not yet. You got you got 2 more guys to face, and he struck out the last man. But with 2 outs in the 9th inning, there was a double up Triples Alley in San Francisco, a no man's land. And that's where his no-hitter went. That he can look out there for the rest of his career as a Giant and say, right there in that alley is where I lost my no-hitter. But the good news is Giants have won 3 in a row, and those 3 in a row have come against the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds, which is no easy feat. They're playing the best in the league. And the headline on ESPN.com today was Giants chase the wild card with no stars. How did they do it? So they're finally getting a little ink.
Good.
The angle is a little demeaning. You people aren't stars. How can you be vying for the wild card? You have to have stars. You have to have home run hitters. You have to have pitching aces. And the Giants have none of those things. Now they do have a very interesting and productive team that, as we've talked about this year, runs in fits and starts. Right now they are tight. They're winning and they're beating the best. It's not always been that way. There's times when we far too often get shut out of games that we should have been part of.
Yeah, they've struggled at times this year. I mean,
With the basics like errors and hits and
yeah,
runs.
yeah, yeah. That's very true. They've struggled lots of times in the earlier part of the year. I mean, just like the Mariners did. I mean, in a straight, the Mariners wound up at the trade deadline doing something to get themselves going. Where the
And for
Giants,
a team that doesn't always have the colorful front office, that move turned out to be a great move that has invigorated the team.
it's you never know what's going to click. It's really the truth. You never know. I mean, you really do never know what you're going to do to make it click, right?
How
I
are you going
mean,
to change one little thing and make it happen?
general managers will tell you, "Oh, I know, and I know, and I got the stat," and the stat people will tell you, "Well, this guy's got a launch angle of 92 and a flight angle of 68, and his the last four numbers on his VIN of his car is 3827."
And that adds up to 375, which is his batting average. Here we go. Well, let's take a go.
They tell you all that stuff, but nobody knows. Nobody knows how you're gonna bring in this guy, you're gonna bring in that guy, and it's gonna work.
But teams like the Chicago White Sox, which in the last couple of years had a lot of promise and a lot of wood on the ball, fired their whole front office last week because that promise turned into a promise unkept. And in Chicago, they pulled the trigger.
Well, I wonder. I mean, there's a lot of buzz about them leaving town.
Well, what's the Sox and going where? Oakland?
What the White Sox? No, there's I think, well, they might either go to a suburb of Chicago
Keep the name.
and keep, or what were the two cities? There's like three cities that were mentioned, like Nashville,
Yeah.
um, uh, Sacramento,
Interesting. You know who's in Sacramento?
the
The
Giants. Yeah, the
Giants
Giants.
AAA.
Actually, I actually thought the A's would wind up in Sacramento at one time. At one time, a couple of years ago, I thought that's where the A's would go because it was, you could have kept a lot of your fan base there because
They're looking for an architect that'll take payment later to build
yeah,
them a place in Vegas.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Everybody thinks that thing's a done deal, but I have some reservations. I mean, I think Vegas will make it happen eventually. Enough rich people that are in that town will put their money together.
The only thing I like about it is that the ballpark will be on the strip, and I think that's a wise choice.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. That would, I think. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest fan of that,
Well, don't put it out
but
in the desert. I mean, you can be anywhere. You might as well be in Phoenix. Put it on the strip and get some personality out of it.
yeah, I could see that. I could see where you put it on the strip and people would meander over there in 110-degree weather to sit in the ballpark.
One more sports story for you, Vinny. See if you like
Yeah,
this. Primetime, Deion Sanders, coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, has transformed his team to the point where there are only 10 men left from the previous year. He's brought in transfers, 80 of them, from all over the nation, from junior colleges, from universities, from his previous home at Jackson State. He's remade this team. The swag for Buffaloes has increased since Deion's there 505% in sales since he's taken over, and he's got a team that has. He's telling people, jump on the portal, come play for me, and they did it. And
Well, he's got that kind of pull, right?
And he's cleaned house. He's cleaned house of everything that was there before. They had a spring football game that coincided with a giant snowstorm. They had more, and that sold out. They had more people for that spring football game, which is just a show, it's just a parade, than they did for the last 3 regular season games of the year, which was not all that stellar. They won 1 game and lost 11. They had the worst team that they had in over 25 years, and now you can't touch them. They're so hot. The Buffaloes of Colorado left the Pac-10. They're playing for the Big 12, and it is a circus in Boulder, Colorado. The people can't get enough of him, and they love him, and they love the cutthroat approach. He cuts players like the NFL does. Yeah, I know you're a scholarship student. Turn in your playbook, you're done.
You know,
that's admirable.
There was a time when I didn't like Deion Sanders.
I know, me too.
And he's really, I mean, not this. I mean, he turned me around back in the 90s. Yeah, I forget exactly what he did, but he did something, and I said, this guy's got a point. He's not asshole. He's not an asshole. He's assy.
Yeah.
He's got two. He's got, and he should, because he can do these things.
Well, you and I were together when he won a ring for the 49ers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he really, he really turned me around. I was off of him for a long time, and I just, and for whatever reason, I forget what, it was something he did in Miami. Maybe it was, but it wasn't on the field. There was something he did off the field, something we've seen him do or something like that. And
the strange thing is, did he ever impress you as someone who was going to go on to be a coach? A very interesting, dynamic coach?
Not.
And a leader? Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I thought that he would wind up being hosting a game show, or, something, he would go the Alex Rodriguez route.
We had the man who made him a coach on our show on KJR. Bobby Bowden. Deion played for him. By the way, Bobby Bowden was a great interview that day. He had no idea who we were or where we were, and it didn't matter a tick to him. He was laughing and scratching and talking football, and that's all he cared about. But Deion models his coaching routines and his coaching acumen and his coaching techniques to what he learned from Bobby Bowden and Bobby's defensive coordinators. And it's good to know that somebody who went to Florida State paid attention to what was going on and used it later in life to his advantage, and to the advantage of everybody in Boulder, Colorado, where he has become an instant saint. There's nothing he can do. If he shows up wearing his Prime jacket and his cowboy hat, it's Deion, Prime, Coach Prime.
Remember when we had Dan Reeves on? And we sent them to the root beer, Stewart's root beer stand.
Yes. And he was thankful. Well, I believe
he was thankful. He called us back. Remember?
I believe I will have a root beer.
He said because he didn't know, he had just gone to New York, and we started. I don't know how we got on the subject of root beer, but he said, "Oh yeah, Coach, I'll tell you where to go get a root beer. You go down Route 3." Route 3. You go down Route 3. You go from the stadium. You go down Route 3 south about 3 or 4 miles, and you'll go down. You'll see a sign that says U-turn. You make that U-turn. As soon as you make that U-turn, you'll see a Stewart's root beer there. It'll be the best root beer. You'll call me back and thank me.
Vinnie, Coach Reeves here. Got me a root beer.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Well, if you're a coach of an NFL team, there's many things you need, but every once in a while, one of them is a proper root beer.
You need a proper root beer, man.
You got to know where to go.
You need some sustenance to keep you going. All right, Mikey, listen, I'm going to run because I got to get out of here and go do something, and then I got to do something else. I got like 3 things I got to do.
Take Deion Sanders with you. He'll make your day a wonder.
I will take the spirit of Deion Sanders with me, and we will be happy. What do you say we meet back here on Friday morning?
If it's a Freaky Friday, I'm in.
I think it's going to be a Freaky Friday. You know, you never know. One never really knows what it's going to be, but...
And there'll be a new hurricane in Florida by then, so you don't want to miss that.
Well, they got a sports team named the Hurricanes. What do you expect?
I am a hurricane, sir.
If you don't want hurricanes, name a sports team the Umbrellas.
Or the slight breeze.
The Seattle Bumbershoots.
Do they still have the Bumbershoot the concerts and everything?
Yes, it's this weekend.
Whoa. Well, go for me.
I have no idea who's playing. I should look to see. But I was alerted to that fact by my lovely daughter.
Well, enjoy your time at the Bumbershoot. Have a great day today. I'll see you for a Freaky Friday.
See you on Friday, man. If the Lord's willing, the creek don't rise. And Mikey, as we always say, peace, love, and Manischewitz, baby.
The first two are hard. The last one, what a wine.
See you guys. Thanks a lot for listening, folks.